I got my first drum set at 2 years old, and since that point, I have played all throughout middle school, all throughout high school, and I was even blessed to go to the Berklee College of Music on a full tuition scholarship. I've played well over 1,500 shows as a full-time musician, and these types of shows span from weddings, private events, festivals, dance parties, clubs, all that type of stuff. If you can think of it, I have played it. And this year alone, I have reached tens of thousands of drummers all across the world, helping them become the best drummers that they can possibly be through my social media platforms. And I'll even throw up some messages on the screen from my one-on-one coaching mentorship, School of Chops. I'm making this video specifically for the people who are tired of all the mystery behind playing chops. Let's skip all the BS and get to what it really means to build articulation, speed, and control on the drum kit. I'm gonna give you a 5-pillar blueprint that you can follow literally today on helping you to master your chops, creativity, and confidence behind the kit. Pillar number 1 is understanding chop development. Before we get deep into what this is all about, I need to make sure you understand the basics first so you can actually follow along with me today. So even if you've learned chops before from another teacher or other videos, this will help you get the most value out of this 1-hour course for your time. Pillar number 2 is gonna be my secret to learning how to play chop. A lot of drummers think it's all about ripping out ideas and eventually those ideas will make sense. But the guessing game is the exact thing that has you in the position to where you can't properly express yourself and lead your band properly. So that stops today. No more guessing. Today, you're about to become a leader. Pillar number 3 is going to be creativity enhancement. When somebody calls you for a gig, they're calling you. Being a copycat in this industry is the first thing that is gonna get you disqualified and the first thing that is gonna help you lose credibility. Being creative is the main thing that is gonna set you apart from all the other drummers in the industry. So in the creativity enhancement section, we're gonna talk about removing the cymbals to help enhance your creativity and help you push out more creative ideas as you're playing the drum kit. Pillar number 4 is gonna be strength training for chops. A lot of drummers don't understand that their hands and their feet cannot keep up with the ideas that their brain is trying to push out. And the way that we solve that is by strengthening your hands and your feet. So in this section, I'm gonna give you an exercise and multiple tips and tricks that you can use to strengthen your hands and feet so you can now translate the ideas coming from your mind and make them come to life. Pillar number 5 is going to be applying stickings. This section is gonna help you learn how to apply stickings onto the kit so you're not that drummer that's just playing the same chops over and over again. And I'm also gonna help you learn how to understand different variations and how to flip and twist the same chops to have a variety and sound more creative and expand your vocabulary. This is the exact 5-pillar strategy that I've been teaching my students for years, and it has made them unnoticeable when it comes to playing chops on the drums. And by the way, if you wanna just copy and paste my entire drumming system to ensure that you become the best drummer that you can possibly be at the fastest rate possible, then make sure you hit the link in the description to find out how you can work with me one-on-one, and I'll definitely get you there. Now, grab your notepad and some snacks because we about to dive in deep. Let's get it. All right, y'all, let's jump right in and waste no more time. Pillar number 1 is understanding chop development, and the first thing I want to do is go over what chops are. So what are chops? Okay, here's the Webster definition. I'm going to read it to you. Number 1, it says on here, jaw or a mouth, a fleshly covering of the jaws, right? That's chops. Of course, we're not talking about that. It also is talking about the technical facility of a musical performer, So that's the one that we're familiar with, a technical facility of a musical performer, as well as the other definition is expertise in a particular field or activity. So I have heard the term chops be used so many different ways over the years that I have been doing music. I've heard horn players say, man, I got to work on my chops. I've heard guitar players say, man, you got to work on your chops, right? So everybody has used chops in a different manner, but you came here for a different type of chop. You came here for the chops of more of the technical facility of a musical performer, right? And when we're talking about technical facility, we are talking about the ability to play the flashy drum fills and to play the chops and to do the solos and to look cool. Ever since gospel chops came out in like 2006, chops have kind of had like a whole different meaning, right? And if you don't know what gospel chops are, definitely get on YouTube, look up Tony Royster Jr. gospel chops, look up Eric Moore gospel chops, look up what's his name? It's on the tip of my tongue. Ronald Bruner gospel chops. These were the original cats that were doing gospel chop videos, and it kind of just took the internet by storm. And now everybody associates chops with just playing chops on the drums, but chops have been used before in a different term for musicians as well. So I just wanted to jump in there and get that definition. Now, let's move on and talk about what it means to have chops and how to develop it. Because a lot of people associate speed with chops. But this bullet point says something very clearly. It says, speed without chops leads to sloppy playing, right? And the first thing you don't want to be when you're playing chops or when you're playing the drums in general or any instrument for that matter is sloppy. I'm against that 100%, totally. So what people fail to realize is you need control in order to have speed. People are thinking like, oh, I could just play fast. If you think about it, anybody can play fast. Anybody can get on the kit and just move their hands as fast as possible. But when it comes to control, that is what's going to help us avoid being sloppy and being what? More articulate, right? And clear. So that's what this bullet point is talking about. Articulation and clarity matter more than raw speed. And I could not agree with that any more than what it's saying, right? So let's think about this. Let's think about the Olympic track racers, right? Any and everybody can pretty much run fast. I mean, not everybody is Usain Bolt fast, but there's a reason why Usain Bolt is as fast as he is. Because he's working on his technique and the way he controls his body when he's running, right? So control has such a huge effect on how fast you can do something. And again, that's not with just drums, right? The analogy I was just using with the Olympic runners. When y'all look at the Olympic runners, one big thing they talk about is form, right? Locking in on their core, right? Having the proper form, controlling their arms, making the proper movements. All of that stuff is going to equate to them running faster. So remember, anybody can just go out here and run fast. I can run to my mailbox really fast right now and then run back. But does that make me fast with control? No. And the control is what contributes to the articulation and the clarity, right? And it matters so much more than raw speed because like I said, anybody can, bro, I can invite my little cousin in here to get on my drums. He could go, he could, do it, but it's all about the clarity, right? So let's move on, right? Great drummers are going to build control first. Right? And I know you're probably thinking, well, dang, Zyck, how do I build my control? That's why we got this 1 hour course. For the next hour, we're going to be talking about building control and articulation and clarity, right? But I just wanted to plant that seed in y'all mind to get y'all to understand great drummers will build control first, no matter what. That's what it's all about, okay? Let's move on. Vocabulary is different from memorized licks. Now, this is something I really can't wait to touch on, okay? Because people do often associate your chops with vocabulary, and they are in the same umbrella, right? If anything, vocabulary is underneath, chops is underneath the vocabulary, the umbrella of vocabulary, right? So vocabulary is going to be different from you just sitting there and memorizing licks. That's why whenever you see a chop on Instagram or a lick or a sticking or a rudiment and you learn it and you do it for 2 or 3 days, and then when you go on the gig, you don't even remember it because it's not a part of your vocabulary, right? And when you just want to memorize something, are you just memorizing it up here or are you downloading it into your whole entire body so your limbs are familiar with it? Because we get into this thing where we do a lot of guessing on the drums, and that is not good for us. So what is the difference now? We got to think about the difference between having a vocabulary and just memorizing something. Because the vocabulary can expand, right? Think about it like this. Again, if you're just speaking and you're just talking and you only memorize a certain amount of words, right? You memorize certain words. You're only going to be able to use those certain words. But if you use the vocab words or what they call like little kids studying sight words, right? They're able to use those sight words to build a better vocabulary. So they're working on their vocabulary. But if you just memorize the word fish, cat, and I don't know, burger, you're only going to be able to use fish, cat, and burger. But if we develop our vocabulary by looking for sight words, right, and kind of looking deeper into it and looking at the root and teaching them to what to memorize and what to download into our brain to give us a broader vocabulary, just like the sight words. Sight words are words like before or after or the or it, right? We use those words to build a better vocabulary, right? So when it comes to playing the chops, when you're just memorizing something, when you scrolling on Instagram and you see somebody say, check out this new chop, and they play it kind of fast and it's appealing to you and you just learn it, that's not really gonna help you unless you really, really know how to implement that into your vocabulary. You get what I'm saying? So because with the vocabulary, we can start using building blocks.
and we can start expanding. We can turn this chop into that. We can spin this chop into that. The vocabulary is different from just memorizing. So, and I know you're probably thinking, dang, Zeke, so how do I do that? Again, that's what we're going to talk about in the course. But I just wanted to get through what chops are so you can kind of understand how this works, okay? And lastly, the goal at the end is clean execution before fast execution. This is a marathon, not a sprint. When I went to Berkeley, it took me a long time to understand how to do this, how to articulate myself, how to expand my vocabulary, how to be creative. It took a while, right? So the goal is clean execution before fast execution. We want to be clean and we want to understand our vocabulary. And the more we understand it and the more clean we are, the faster we'll be able to play it and execute it and give it to the audience, which is exactly what you want to do. And I know that's what you want to do. So let's just do a quick recap about what this is all about. What are the chops, right? We went through the definitions, right? But we understand that speed without control leads to sloppy playing, right? And the last thing we want to be is sloppy. We want to be clean. We want to be articulate. We want the people to understand, right? The next bullet is talking about articulation and clarity matter more than raw speed. Get speed out of your mind. I just want to be fast. No, you want more control, and then you will be fast, right? Great drummers build control first. I mean, ask anybody. If you ever have the opportunity to talk to one of your favorite drummers, ask them how they gained their speed and what they did. I promise you they're going to end up telling you about exercises that they did to help them build their control, right? And vocabulary is different from memorized notes. Again, you don't want to just be memorizing something you've seen on the internet or memorizing a lick that you've seen in a book somewhere, right? We want to find out how we can incorporate that into our vocabulary and use the building blocks of what we already have to further push those ideas out and be more creative and more articulate, right? In our vocabulary, right? And the goal is clean execution before fast execution. Look, we live in the microwave generation. Everybody wants everything fast, but fast does not necessarily equal good, especially when it comes to learning something. So we want to make sure that we focus on our goal being clean execution, right? Being clean. Is the audience understanding what I'm trying to say? Can the audience understand what I'm trying to say? Can my bandmates understand what I'm trying to say? If I have a certain group of musicians that are going to require me to solo a certain type of way so the whole band doesn't fall apart, am I able to do that? Or can I only just play fast and ruin everything, right? And ruin the experience for the audience and for the people that are playing with me, right? So being clean is so very, very important, and it's something that we have to have. Now, let's move on and let's do the next section. Pillar number 2 is going to be the secret to practicing chops. Now, from what I understand, a lot of drummers don't have no problems learning music. They don't have no problems learning grooves. But how do you practice chops? How do you practice creativity? How do you practice vocabulary? Things of that nature. Let's dig into that. Let's talk about that, right? Why most drummers practice incorrectly, right? Most drummers practice ideas too fast. So when you see something, you immediately just try to keep playing it. You're running into errors and you're running into problems, but you're not going slow enough to address those issues and address those problems in the playing, which is now leading to you suffering and not being able to translate the ideas. And after a while, you get frustrated because you can't remember it and it doesn't sound like how it sounded on Instagram, so you give up. But the root of that is practicing too fast, right? Fast practice creates mistakes and bad habits. I keep going ahead of myself, but literally I explained that. It's going to create mistakes and bad habits. Because you're moving so fast, you're not able to understand and feel the bad habits and bad mistakes that you're making and you're creating, right? So when you're in practice and you're trying to learn something technical, being slow is going to be your best friend, right? And when I say the secret to doing this, look, y'all, to be completely honest, the secret done been out. You know this. When you went to tie your shoe as a kid, when you were tying shoes, whether you did around the tree method, whether you did 2 bunny ears, I don't care what you did, you started slow. I know you did, because I've yet to see a 6-year-old tie their shoes crazy fast. But now as an adult, you get down on your knee, you tie your shoe, you can do it while eating a banana and chewing gum. Like you can do multiple things while you're tying your shoe, right? Because you had to learn it slow first. So why is our expectancy to now be so quick and so fast when it comes to learning chops? Because like I said, now you're blazing past mistakes and issues that need to be addressed. Take your time. Fast practice creates mistakes and bad habits, right? But muscle memory develops through slow repetition. I don't care what instrument you play. When you have gotten to a certain level, you will slowly realize, slowly but surely, that muscle memory is 100% involved in your ability to play the way you play. All the way down to even singing, the way you move your vocal cords to hit certain notes. That is all muscle memory. When a trumpet player is playing the trumpet and they're going through the scales, the different scales and the way they play with their armature and their lips and their throat is all muscle memory. A guitar player going up and down the neck, playing different scales, doing different, that's all muscle memory. It's funny because I play keys for my church sometimes. And, you know, I'm not a crazy keys player, but I can do what I can do. But people will be trying to talk to me or ask me questions while I'm playing or get me to, you know, start the track or whatever. I'm not at a level where I can do that yet. I'm not at a level where I can play the keys and I can like be like, oh yeah, that's dope. Like I like playing drums, bro. I've been on gigs and I can play drums with one hand, doing drum fills too now, and land on the one while eating a sandwich. Then I'll reach over, grab a drink, take a swig of the drink. Oh, milkshake too over there? Oh, thanks for that milkshake. Grab the milkshake, taste the milkshake, all while still playing drums. But when I go to keys, I'm not able to do that because my muscle memory is not as sound as it is on drums when I play the keys, right? And how do you develop that? Through slow repetition. And I'm still practicing the keys, right? Slowly but surely. Whenever I get a line one week, I do it slowly and I lock it down under my hands. Right? So we have to understand half the reason why some of y'all are struggling so bad on drums is because you just haven't been taking enough time with it. Reps is going to get you there. And muscle memory is going to develop through slow repetitions. I should have put slow in all caps. Notice where it says slow repetitions. Not fast, not crazy, okay? Slow, right? There's the word again. Slow practice builds accuracy and consistency, right? So think about it. The reason why you can't be accurate and consistent whenever you're eating a sandwich and playing the drums right now is because you haven't done it enough. You don't have the muscle memory, right? But some of y'all don't even have to eat a sandwich and do it, and you still not accurate and consistent because we got to get the reps in. And what kind of reps? Y'all say it with me. SLOW, slow reps, bro. When you play it slow, it's going to work out for you, right? So when you understand that slow practice is going to build accuracy and consistency, accuracy is what we need on drums 100%. It's nothing worse than going for a drum solo and you hitting the rim every time, or you going for a drum fill and you hitting the rim, because you can hear the rim, but the people on stage that's going to throw them off, right? So we need that accuracy and we need that consistency in our performance to be consistent, right? Not to be afraid to take a drum fill, because the drum fill is so important. The drum fill is made to take us from this section to that section. And I want you to think about it. That is nobody else's responsibility but yours as a drummer. Who else on stage is responsible for doing something to take us from here to here in a music form? I'll wait, but I'll be waiting forever because you're not going to be able to tell me. It's the drummer's responsibility, right? And we need that consistency. You as the leader on the drums, it's the leadership instrument. You as the leader need to be ready to be consistent and move us on from this section to that section by playing a drum fill that is clean and accurate. And how are we going to get there? By playing slowly, right? This is almost how all learning works, okay? When you were a baby and you started talking, you did not start speaking in full, complete sentences very fast, right? 9 times out of 10, you began with mama or dada, very simple words. And over time, slowly but surely, you were able to put sentences together and talk. We can also talk about that when it comes to walking as a child. When is the last time you seen a baby that just started walking run fast? I'll wait. You never seen that, because babies aren't going to run fast. They're at a level where they're not able to run fast. But you know what they'll do? They'll walk or they'll crawl, right? I know y'all heard the saying, you got to crawl before you can walk. Absolutely. But crawling and walking are very slow movements. That's probably why kids love running so much, because it's a new thing. You got to stop running, right? Kids love to run because it's like, yo, I'm figuring out how to move fast now, right? And it is fun. Just like on drums, it's fun to play fast. But you got to have that control and you got to start slow, right? But like I said, this is almost how all learning works. You're expecting to be sitting down on a kit and just playing fast, but you've never done anything slow before to the point where you can understand it, right? And then lastly, man, this is important. I always tell my students, always use a metronome when you're developing chops. But this honestly should say when you're developing anything. If you are a drummer and you're practicing without a metronome, you are officially useless, my friend. You should never be doing that. You can download 100 free apps on your phone. If you want to get a metronome, you can go on YouTube and type in the BPM you need. There is no excuse these days. You have a metronome with you all the time in your pocket or on your computer or on YouTube. It does not matter. There are metronome apps everywhere. You need to always, always, always be practicing with a metronome. Now, you definitely need to be practicing with a metronome when it comes to learning grooves and songs. But most importantly, bro, you got to be practicing with a metronome when it comes to chops and drum fills too, because you want to land on the one. That's the important thing. Landing on the 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Nothing you did matters when you play a chop. I don't care how dope it is, how awesome it is. It will not matter if you do not land on the 1. And playing and practicing to a metronome is going to help you do that, which is 100% what's needed, okay? Now, let's move on. Let's talk about how the practice method works. We're going to start extremely slow. When I say slow, people be thinking like, oh, I'm going to do it at 100 BPM. 100 BPM is not slow. I'm talking about around 60, 65, right? And when you get really killing, do it at 50. And one thing I want you to focus on is listening, because that's a big part. When you playing a chop so slow, listen to how it sounds as you're going around the kit. Listen to it. Wow. Listen to it. Download the way it sounded, because guess what? If you're not listening when you're practicing the chops, that's another way of guessing, because if you listen into the way you practice the chops, you know where it sounds good and where it doesn't sound good. And we want to make sure we got all of the ways that it sounds good. So as you're practicing slow, I want you to listen. And when you find something that you like, look at the third bullet. When you find a chop that you like, repeat the pattern slowly. Repeat it. Repeat it. That's the one I'm locking in. I found one that I like. Now I'm locking it in. I'm practicing it. I'm locking it in. Slowly but surely. Playing it. Playing it. Playing it. Right? And then when you speed it up, you're going to be like, damn, I'm playing that faster than I've ever played it. Right? And then, of course, gradually increase the tempo. But gradually means it takes time. Right? I want y'all to do this for a very long time. I like to set a timer for about 10 minutes. And after I've focused and listened and I found a chop that I like and it sounds good at 60 BPM, I practice that chop for 10 minutes straight at 60 BPM. You do that every day for like a week, and when you go to play that chop, it's gonna be crazy. And then your body is naturally gonna come up with other ways to execute that chop, right? But slow practice builds speed naturally over time, and you're gonna notice that. So commit to that. That's one thing that people hate to hear. I don't want to practice it slow. I'm tired of practicing slow. I don't know what to tell you, bro. I didn't make the human body. You got to take that up with God. He made the human body to develop things easier and better when it's received slowly. I don't know. Don't get mad at me. But I'm telling you, this is something that people don't want to believe. I'm just going to keep doing it my way. Okay, you can keep doing it your way, but you're not going to sound killing. You're not going to sound very clean. You know, you might be able to get some stuff out, but is it clean? Is it articulate? Right? Slow practice is going to build these things. All right. So now I'm going to do a quick video demonstrating how to practice slow at a slow BPM. Check me out. All right. So with this particular pillar, we're working on practicing slow and listening. Okay. This is very, very important. I want to get you, one thing I want you guys to understand is that whenever you hear practice slow, a lot of y'all be thinking, like I said earlier, 100 BPM, 120. No. We got to break it down to almost half that. So I'm going to demonstrate to you how to practice a chop slowly at 65 BPM, and you're going to see how slow it really is. And honestly, it really sucks. It's not a fun thing to do. It's not an exciting thing to do. But the more you do it, the slower you practice it, the more it is being downloaded into your muscle memory. And the better your chops are going to sound, the more cleaner, the more articulate, and the more control you're going to have as you're moving around the drums. So I'm just going to take a simple chop. I'll put it on the screen, and I'll show you guys basically how to just listen and move around and just play very slowly and work the chop out and find different ways to play it. So I'm going to do it at 65 BPM. This chop comes from my free ebook. You can hit the link in the description and download it. It's a bunch of chops in there, and I'll put it on the screen, and we'll check it out. So let's do this. As y'all can see, it's not very fast. It's not very exciting, and it is very excruciating, but move it around and start to begin to listen. And that is exactly how you download chops into your muscle memory and into your brain. And it's going to put you in a position where you're actually able to, start playing things without guessing, knowing how it's going to sound, having the muscle memory to move around the drums, and start adding more creative things to it and challenging your brain and challenging your mind. Like I said, it's not the most funnest thing to watch, and it's definitely not the most funnest thing to do, but that is exactly how you get your chops articulate, clean, with good control, and most importantly, I know y'all want the speed. That's how you get the speed. So let's move on to our next pillar and keep going right along. All right, now, pillar number 3 is the creativity enhancement, and this is a really, really important one and a huge one, okay? Developing your creative voice. Creativity is going to separate great drummers from average drummers, and that's just known. Like, it's a reason why you like Larnell Lewis. It's a reason why you like Nate Smith. It's a reason why you like Eric Moore. It's the reason why you like Zyck the Freak, man, because the creativity is there, right? If you weren't a creative drummer, then you don't really have anything to offer the ensemble or the audience, right? So creativity is what's going to start separating you from an average drummer. And I'm going to tell y'all, no one wants to hear a copy of another drummer. Now, I just name a couple of names. There is only one Larnell Lewis. There is only one Eric Moore. There is only one Styx Taylor. There is only one Zyck the Freak. So you biting their creativity and trying to do that and recreate that, or not even recreate, but like just copy and paste it, nobody wants to hear that, right? Because when people reach out to you, they didn't have Larnell Lewis in mind. If they had, they would have called Larnell Lewis if they wanted Larnell Lewis, but they called you, right? So we have to find a way to develop our creative voice, right? And like I said, nobody wants to hear that, right? And limiting your options can unlock more creativity. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is less is more. And hear me out when I say this. Whenever I used to practice chops, one thing that really, really helped me was only practicing chops with the snare and the hi-hat, right? Locking in a groove, locking in a groove, and then trying to chop. And it's actually sound good. Trying to do a drum fill and it actually sound good, right? I only have the kick drum, the snare, and the hi-hat to work with, right? My options are now limited, and so I can unlock creativity. So I'll practice like that for a while. I'll practice like that for like an hour. Just that. Forcing myself to come up with something new. Forcing myself to push out a new creative idea that sounds good. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you haven't tried it, it's really, really hard to take a drum solo with just hi-hat, kick, and snare, and it sounds good. It's like really, really hard. It's possible, but it's hard. So I do that for an hour. And then you know what? I add the floor tom now. And when I say add, I mean literally move the stuff away. Don't just try not to hit it. No, move it away. Because we talked about in the last one, muscle memory, you're going to naturally just hit other stuff because it's in your muscle memory to hit those things. So now you're forcing yourself. When you add the floor tom, that means a floor tom wasn't there before. You bring it in now and you're like, okay. And now when you start chopping again, I want you to play that groove you were playing before, and then I want you to try to play some drum fills or play some chops again. And you're going to be like, wow, this is way easier. It's way easier to sound better doing this, right? It's going to sound better. It's like, oh, I have more options now. So then after you do that for a while, that's going to start getting hard again too. It's going to take longer to get hard because you had less before. So now go ahead and add in a rack tom, right? And now that we have another rack tom, we have the opportunity to introduce a melodic point in the drums, right? We can introduce melodies because the toms all sound different. So now that we've added another tom, we can start working with some melody. And I mean, you could technically work with melody too if you just turn the snares off or whatever, but we're not getting into that. So now you notice what I'm saying here? You're limited options. So when you go into that, now it's going to be like, oh my goodness, I'm so good. You're going to be like, yo, I'm a great drummer. I'm so killing because I'm able to now move and play the chops up and down the drums. And it feels so great because I have so much to work with. You're going to be going around. And God forbid you add the other tom now. Oh my goodness. So now you add the other tom, and now you have full melodic options and just full, how do I say it? Free reign. No restrictions. And what that's going to do to your creativity is now you have so much more to work with. Things are going to come out that weren't coming out before when you were just playing with everything, right? So limit your options. This is something I used to practice, especially when I was in Berkeley, all the time, every day. Practice that, because you don't really know how sweet something is until you got to go without it. So when you go without that floor tom, you're going to be like, yo, this is crazy. Or you go without that, the other toms. It's like, I know some people, they can only play with a certain setup. Like, bro, I can't play that kid. I need my kid. I got to have it my way. Which, that's good that you have a preference. There's nothing wrong with a preference. But, you may be scared to take drum fills now because you're sitting there like, yo, how am I going to take a drum fill with just a floor tom? How am I going to take a drum fill with just a snare? It's up to you. Get creative. What does the top one say? Develop your creative voice. That's what you have to do, right? And now the next level to that would now be adding accessory percussion, right? Maybe you throw a stack in there. What's it like now when I do that one chop in a stack? I'm playing it over a stack. What's it like now when I'm playing that one chop and the cowbell, I'm incorporating the cowbell in it, right? What's it like now when I'm playing that one chop and there's a wood block and I'm playing the wood block? Okay, and if you want to reverse that, if you want to become more powerful and more creative with accessory percussion, then that means only set up the snare drum and a tambourine. Only set up the snare drum, kick drum, and a wood block or a cowbell, right? Now you're forcing yourself to have a variety in what you're playing and make it sound interesting. Right? That's what it's all about. Cymbals can get in the way. So one of the biggest things that I've found out during my practice is that cymbals can start to get in your way a little bit. And when I say get in your way, I mean like they'll start to crutch you a little bit, especially when it comes to playing drum fills and playing chops, because we always like to rely on the one. Now, I'm not contradicting myself. You need to be relying on the one. But sometimes it will affect the things you're saying before you get to the one. And we want to cultivate those things. Remember, we talked about being melodic on the drums and having a melodic feel when you're going up and down the drums, right? So the cymbals is going to help you be more melodic, right? And removing the cymbals is going to force you to focus on drums and phrasing, right? So a lot of the times whenever I will be in a drum shed, you rely on using the cymbal to sound creative, because like I said, remember I said the accessory percussion will make things sound more creative, right? The cymbals are technically an accessory to the drums, technically, because they're not drums. You get what I'm saying? So a lot of the times, if we want to sound cool, we'll just take that chop and move it to the cymbal. But what if the cymbals is not there? If we want to sound cool, we'll just do it on the hi-hat and the snare. It'll sound cool. Okay, how about we remove that? It don't sound so interesting anymore. It don't sound so cool anymore, right? So when you remove the cymbals, it's forcing you to focus on what you're hearing and what the drums sound like. So if we sitting there and we only got our 4 drums, right? And we go goom 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 goom. Right? Now we're phrasing. Now we're working on a real vocabulary. Now we're articulating an actual sound. And oh my goodness, when we get into this, y'all, that is what really takes the audience on a ride, because it's something they can resonate with. You want the audience and your band members to be able to resonate with something. You don't want them to you don't want to just play chops and like nobody, it's cool. It looks cool that you can do a stick trick and you can do a crossover, but I don't really understand what you're playing. That's not cool. What if we give them something to understand? And that's the difference between melodic soloing, like a melodic instrument. It's easier for a guitar player to translate what he's doing on the guitar because the people can understand the notes. They can feel the notes better. But with the drums, it's a lot at once. It's just like rhythmically you have to force yourself to be melodic. And removing the cymbals is going to force your ear to say, wow. So remember we talked about the method of practicing slow? Now let's work on practicing slow and creating an actual voice with the cymbals alone, right? So I'm going to demonstrate this, and I'm going to tell you all the things that I'm going to demonstrate, right? Creativity practice exercise. So you want to play grooves without cymbals on the toms, and those grooves will end up going into actual chops and melodies for you to go with. Try to come up with a groove. Goom, goom, got, goom, got, goom, 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 got, goom, 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 got, right? Marching Man does this great because when you think about the quads is what? The melody, right? The bass can be too. The bass can be melody too, right? But most of the time, the quads is what's carrying the melody. You should be carrying melodies, right? So I want you to explore phrasing on the snare and the toms and create melodic fills using only drums. Focus on musical movement around the kit. Okay, and as I'm moving, does this sound musical? Does this sound cool? And I want you to do this for a while. I want you to do this for like 2 or 3 full practice sessions. Just forget about the cymbals. Now, when you add the cymbals back in, oh my goodness, the melody connected with the accessory percussion sound is going to blow people away. I promise you. All right? Matter of fact, I can show you better than I can tell you. I'm going to demonstrate this. Let's switch over. I'm going to demonstrate. Check it out.
The sticking that I'm going to demonstrate is from my free ebook. You can see that in the link in the description. Hit the link and get the free ebook, and you can get some chops. This chop goes right, left, kick, kick. Right, left, kick, kick. Okay, again, you can find it in the ebook. Download the ebook and check it out. There's plenty of other chops, plenty of variations. But we want to focus on trying this and being melodic. So here I am. I'm going to demonstrate. I want y'all to really listen to the melodies I'm trying to create with the toms, because now we don't have the cymbals to rely on. We don't have that accessory percussion that we talked about. All we have is the melody of these different drums to rely on. So I'm going to play this chop. Again, it's right, left, kick, kick. I'm going to move it around, and I'm going to listen to exactly what's going on, and it's going to be very dope. Check it out. So notice how y'all hearing the goon goon, got the goon goon. Listen to what you're playing and try to find cool stuff. Let's keep going. Let's keep trying it. Again, y'all, this chop is not hard. Right, left, kick, kick. Right, left, kick, kick. It's not hard, but it sounds different as you move it around. There's no cymbals to distract you, but you can hear different melodies that you're creating. Now we talk about creativity and vocabulary. Let's keep going. When there's no cymbals there, you're forced to listen and you're forced to create different melodies, right? The toms are a melody, y'all. goon, 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 right? It's something that you have to express yourself with. That is our demonstration for pillar number 3. It has so much potential, so many different things you can do. Definitely take that chop and get it into your repertoire. It's a dope chop, man. I mean, it's so many different things you can do with that, and I have a bunch of different variations of that same chop in the ebook, so make sure you grab it. But y'all, that's pretty much what that is. That type of practice is what's going to enhance your creativity and sharpen your ear to start hearing cool stuff and being able to hear something in your head and now translate it to the kid. So that is the demonstration for pillar number 3. Let's keep moving right along. We are almost done. Let's jump into pillar number 4.
Pillar number 4, y'all, we working right through it, is going to be the strength training for your chops. So, why does strength matter? Huh? Creative ideas require physical ability to execute, right? And these are one of those things that you kind of already know, but you just haven't focused on it, so you just kind of neglect it and you never touch it again, and then you get frustrated when you can't do the ability, when you don't have the ability to do certain things. Strength is one of those things that is so heavily overlooked when it comes to drummers, and it comes to my students especially, a lot of students, because they don't understand that they have to be strong, right? Y'all ever see like the fireman test or something like that? If I remember correctly, it's like on social media, they show you the fireman test when you have to like run 1 mile or something, and then at the end of that mile, you got to go through this obstacle course. You got to put on the gear. You got to carry somebody. You got to climb up the ladder. You know, you got to go up the ladder and do all this stuff. And you got to come back down. Then you got to carry the water and carry the hose. Like, it's this whole thing. And what they're doing is obviously strengthening themselves for the situation of a fire happening, right? The only bad thing is the drummers that aren't strong enough, the fire of the solo or the fire of the drum fill is burning them up, and they're failing. Because simply they're not strong enough. They don't have the strength in their hands and their feet to execute what the gig is requiring. I can remember being a kid in church, playing certain songs that required a certain kick pattern. And the people would be like, you know, the guy playing the keyboard or the musical director when I was a kid would be like, bro, that's not right. Play it right. And I'm like on the drums crying because I physically cannot play it, right? I remember one time in high school, they told me to play the song "So Fresh, So Clean" by Outkast, which is a legendary beat. Do 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 ga do 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 ga do 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 ga do 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 ga. Could not do it. I was like 17 years old, bro. I'm trying so hard and I'm struggling. I might nail it once, but then when it comes around again, I mess it up. The more I played it over and over again, the worse I got because I simply was not strong enough, right? Many drummers' hands and feet should be in there too, are not strong enough for what the music is requiring. And that's bad, y'all, because now when you're not strong enough, we're putting ourselves in situations to where we're simply not ready. It's a gamble, right? If they just took any random Joe off the street and they didn't have to take that fireman's test, people's lives would be in danger. But when they train that way, and they put themselves in real scenarios like that to strengthen themselves, when the real thing comes, they're prepared and they're ready, right? So your brain is ahead. I want you to keep that in mind, especially in this day and age. Because 30, 40 years ago on the drums, the things that were possible on drums weren't really possible in the mind yet. I mean, well, I can't say that fully because people like Dennis Chambers existed. So Dennis Chambers was playing like crazy chops. Let's say it like this way. Let's say like in the 20s when the drums first came out, right? Or the early 1900s when the drum kit came out. It was so much further that the drums could go that certain things weren't mentally possible. But in this day and age, in the mid-20s, 2020s, right? We're online. We're seeing so many incredible players. We're seeing so many phenomenal guys execute so many crazy things on the drums that now it's possible for us, which helps our imagination go further. But when your brain is ahead, what I mean by that is your brain is ahead on executing the things that are possible and trying those things, but your brain is relying on weak hands and feet. So your hands and your feet are not able to execute those things. And when your hands and your feet are not able to execute those things, that's why we break. That's why we make mistakes. That's why we feel like we can't do it. Because your brain is ahead. And it takes time. It takes time to really build the strength. But oh my goodness. When you match your hands with your brain, now the possibilities are truly endless. But a lot of players are in a position where they're not able to do that yet. But it's okay. That's why you're taking this course, right? Endurance is extremely important as well. So strength and endurance are going to run hand in hand together, right? It's going to come along with it. So a lot of people be negating the fact that when you play a show, right? A show is usually 2 hours straight, bro. 2 hours straight of you playing drums. And in the gigs I play, I've done a gig before where the drummer, while everybody else takes a break, I do a drum solo. So I do like a few tracks. I take about maybe 5 to 10 minutes to do my thing while everybody else in the band is breaking. And then they come right back up. And I'm still playing, right? So especially as a drummer, you have to be, your endurance got to be on point, bro, right? And as you build your strength, your endurance is going to come. You're going to be able to last for longer sets. You're going to be able to play faster for longer periods of time. You're going to be able to play louder for long periods of time. Bro, when you play in a big venue and you're exerting a lot of force onto the drums to fill up the venue, bro, after like song 4 or 5, you're going to be tired, especially if it's fast. Especially if it's fast music, man. There's been times at church whenever I'm playing, I'm like, yo, whoo, like I need a drink of water, right? Because I'm exerting so much energy onto this stuff, like it's crazy. You know what I mean? So endurance is going to be extremely important as well, but the endurance is going to come as you build the strength. It's going to come naturally, right? Strength training is going to improve every single aspect of drumming you can think of. I promise. Strength training is going to improve everything. Oh, if I strengthen my hands, what's going to happen? I'll tell you what's going to happen. You're going to be more articulate. If I strengthen my hands, what's going to happen? You're going to be able to play faster. If I strengthen my feet, what's going to happen? You're going to have way better control. If I strengthen my left foot, what's going to happen? You're going to keep time with the hi-hat way better. Right? Strength training is going to improve everything. That is why I always have my students incorporate strength training every day. I have strength exercises. These exercises are specifically for you to strengthen your hands and your feet. When you incorporate them every single day, or after a period of time, things are going to come way easier. You're going to do a drum fill and be like, wow, that was easy. That felt good. That felt easy. It's going to be effortless, right? And when you put strength and technique together, the proper technique, and then you're actually really strong, oh my goodness. The possibilities are limitless, right? So strength training is going to improve everything. Don't ever forget that. You always want to work on strength training, okay? It's just a big part of it, of drumming, right? So the thing I want to introduce to y'all in the course this time around is the heavy stick training, right? We always want to practice with heavier sticks. There's a lot of different options when it comes to heavier sticks, but you want to practice with heavier sticks, right? Because heavier sticks are going to increase that resistance. It's going to make it harder for you to move around, all right? I like to use Vic Firth metal sticks, and when I say Vic Firth metal, I mean actual like the wooden sticks that are called metal because they're so thick. They're so thick. And when you start chopping with them sticks, you can literally feel your hands struggling to lug those logs around the drums because they're so heavy, right? But when you switch to lighter sticks for performance, and you've been, so think about it like this. There's been times where I have been practicing, and when I was at Berkeley, I was in a jazz ensemble, and I was practicing swing. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start practicing these with Ralph Hardemans. If you don't know what Ralph Hardemans are marching sticks. They're really, really huge. I don't know if I have a pair in here. I may not have a pair in here. I may have them in another room. But they're really, really, really big. And I was swinging. Now, the thing about swinging is when you're playing jazz, you got to be light, right? Jazz is all about having light hands. So if I'm fighting and struggling to be light with Ralph Hardemans, these huge sticks, I'm struggling. Once I switch back to the lighter sticks, what does the fourth bullet say? my hands felt faster and more relaxed. So playing with the heavier sticks is also going to contribute to your technique getting better over time, right? Because you're able to just execute this stuff and just do this stuff on the drums, okay? Now, right here it says alternate heavy and regular sticks during practice, but honestly, I would just say to just, I don't know why it says that. That's a typo. I apologize, y'all. Don't do that. Always, always, always practice with the heavy sticks. Ain't no need to practice with the regular sticks during practice. That's a typo. That's an accident. I'm sorry, I typed that. Don't do that. Do not alternate. Always practice with the heavy sticks. In performance, go back down to the small sticks. You're even going to see yourself breaking the sticks even more because you're so used to playing with more force and heavier sticks, right? But when you got to play light, it's so much easier to play light because the sticks are so much lighter. It's like, dang, I'm playing with chopsticks. So I always, always recommend that you play the drums with the heavier sticks in practice, and then when you go to rehearsal, when you go to the show, go down to like a 7A or a 5A, and bro, you're gonna be blazing. Now, there's actual metal sticks out in the market, literal metal sticks that are so heavy, and when you go back to these slimmer sticks, it's so much easier to play with them. And I'm going to do an exercise explanation showing y'all a couple things on the pad, and I'm gonna use those metal sticks and show y'all how to do it. So let's go over and check out this exercise explanation that I have.
All right, y'all, so as far as hand speed goes, I have the perfect exercise for you guys that anybody can play at any skill level. But first, let's talk about these sticks. These are the metal sticks that I was telling you guys about, right? You can get them on Amazon, and they only cost about 15 bucks, and they're really, really, really heavy. If you don't have the funds for that, then you can get the Ralph Hardemans. These are the big wooden sticks that I was telling you about. We're gonna do this on a pad because I do not recommend playing your drums with these types of sticks or these types of sticks. It will destroy your heads. These are made for marching Kevlar heads, and these are made for pads. Do not, I repeat, do not play your actual drum kit with these sticks. All right, so with that being said, let's go ahead and move forward with our exercise. Now, of course, like I said, you always need to be practicing with a metronome, especially when it comes to strength building. So let's get a good tempo going here. So this exercise is basically going to be you playing doubles. You're going to start with eighth notes, right? Then you're going to play triplets. Then you're going to play the 16th notes. Then you're going to play sextuplet, and then you're going to end with 32nd. So I'm going to demonstrate how that goes. Right? Y'all can hear it. Click here. So 1, 2, starting with the 8 notes. Ready, go. Triplets. 16ths. Sextuplets. And 30 seconds. Right? So the goal there is to be as clean as you can possibly be and be able to articulate each note on purpose, right? It's going to be harder with the heavier sticks. It's supposed to be harder with the heavier sticks. As a matter of fact, if you really want to get a push, play these on pillows, right? That's really going to take you there. And I also have another course called Pillow Push, which has a bunch of exercises specifically made for you to practice on pillows. And it's a mini course, and you can find that as a link in the description as well. But we're going to do that exercise one more time. Anybody can play this exercise, and this is all you need. I promise. You are not going to need anything else once you do this exercise with the heavy sticks. It's hard enough. You can speed it up a little bit, and it'll be fun. So I'm going to take it up a little bit, and we'll do it together again, right? All right, let's go up one more time. All right, of course, the faster you get, the harder it's going to be. Woo, that's good right there. All right, let's try it with the Ralph Hardemans. We at 130. That's a good push. So, like I said, all y'all are gonna need is either some bigger Ralph Hardiman sticks. I think these are like 14 bucks online now, 15 bucks. And these are right around the same price. So whichever ones you want, you can get these on Prime. You can get these on any music store website. Get your heavy sticks and practice this type of stuff frequently. Now, when you go back to playing with the regular sticks, I mean, to be honest, I even saw a difference in the heavy metal sticks with these. And these are heavy, right? I felt a difference. It was easier, right? So always, always, always incorporate this because it's all about strength when it comes to playing drums. Remember, strength is going to help and enhance everything you do on the entire kit. Because I'm gonna be real with y'all. If I do that with these little sticks, I feel like I'll break this. These are 5Bs. I mean, they literally feel like I'm gonna break them from playing with y'all for the last 5 minutes. Like it literally feels like they're ready to break. So keep that in mind, y'all. Keep your strength up, keep training, and let's move right along.
All right, y'all. Lastly, we're gonna talk about applying stickings. This is pillar number 5 and the last pillar of the free course. Now, let's jump right in. Why do stickings matter? Right? They're very, very important because they're direct translations to what you should do, an idea on the drum. So they're very important. But why don't stickings stick? That's a question that I talk to my students about all the time. Why is it that when you see a sticking on YouTube or you see a sticking on Instagram and you learn it and you try it, and then you're like, damn, man, I don't really like it. Like, it doesn't stick for me. I don't enjoy it. I don't remember it, right? A lot of y'all will get a sticking and don't even remember it. You practice it like for a day and then you go to try it and you're like, damn, what was that again? Why is it not sticking, right? I can tell you right now, that has a lot to do with the creativity, right? Because it's not you. You're just copying and pasting it. That's a big part of it. How do we make it you, right? And there's a part in my private one-on-one coaching where I really talk about my students about personalizing stickings, how to make it feel like them. And that will help you get over that hump of actually struggling to retain these chops and make them feel good and retain these stickings, right? Because unfortunately, y'all, most drummers just be repeating the same fills over and over and over and over again. I can assure you, nobody wants to be the drummer that is continuously repeating the same chops over and over and over and over and over and over again. It's not fun. And plus, people start to pick up pretty fast, especially when it's like a drum solo. It's like, bro, you just played the same thing like 5 times in a row, right? Why is that? Because they don't have anything internalized. They don't have anything in their muscle memory, right? And when they do get these stickings, they don't really stick. They don't really, probably number one, because you're practicing it wrong. We don't went through that. You should, at this point, if you do everything I've told you on the last other pillars, especially when it comes to practicing slow, your stick is going to start to stick. You don't got no choice. But most drummers repeat the same fills because they don't have any repertoire. They're just doing the same thing over and over again. They're doing what's comfortable and they're willing to just repeat. One sticking pattern can create many ideas, and it's supposed to. I always encourage my students, even when I talk to y'all on School of Chops, I always say, these chops that I'm giving you, don't just steal them and just only play it that way. You have to incorporate some sort of creativity in there. You have to insert yourself in it some kind of way. You have to. It makes a big difference in the end, right? One sticking pattern can create so many ideas. One sticking can be like 10, 12 different chops. It just depends on how you approach it and how you go about it, right? Stickings are supposed to be expanded. They're supposed to go from here to here. They're supposed to be large, right? You're supposed to say, ooh, well, I want to spin it like this. Ooh, I want to try it like this, right? Think about it like an outfit. Like if you saw a shirt that somebody had and you liked the shirt and you went and bought the shirt, are you going to go buy the same exact shoes he had on too? No. You're going to add your own flavor into it, right? You're going to create your approach to it. And that's what makes it beautiful. That's what makes drums beautiful. Because there are people that be like, oh, these drummers sound the same. That's not true, bro. When you say that, you're just letting me know that your ear is not developed. Because Sharik Tucker sounds different from Sticks Taylor. 100%. Both phenomenal drummers sound completely different. Larnell Lewis sounds completely different from Nate Smith. Thomas Pridgen sounded completely different from Aaron Spears. All these drummers sound the same. No, they don't. Your ears is not developed to be able to hear that. And those guys have expanded generic old school stickings into their own thing, right? And as the next generation of drummers, y'all got to carry that on, man, and keep expanding. Because expanding, look at that. I already talked into the next point. Expanding is building personality, style, and creativity. So you want the creativity, but you're not really willing to put in the work to move it around and really find out what makes it work, find out what makes it dope. That's your responsibility as a drummer, man, right? So I'm going to demonstrate to you how to apply stickings step by step. And this also works for rudiments as well. Some of y'all probably seen a video that I've done on this. This is called the LPC method. First and foremost, you want to learn the sticking pattern, preferably on the snare only. Okay? Don't be moving it around too soon. Learn the sticking pattern. Get it down. And then you want to work on the placement of the sticking. How am I going to play this? How am I going to move it around the kit? How am I going to go about it? Am I going to turn it into like a sweep? Am I going to add something extra to it? Am I going to play this rudiment after the sticking? So I'm going to do the sticking this way. Then I'm going to play a flam paradiddle. Get creative. Add things. Expand. And then step 3, contextualizing the sticking. How am I going to use this in a musical setting? Or how am I going to use this in a drum solo? There's nothing wrong with planning out your drum solo, especially if you've been rehearsing and you know that it's coming up. Bro, sit down on the drums and figure out what works over it, over the form. You know the hits. If the hits is dum 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 ga do doom doom ga goom goom do goo ga do gum gum gum, you already know how it's gonna go. Find out what works over that. Find out what's cool over that. Work through it. It'll be dope, right? But that's a part of contextualizing. Figuring out how it works when it comes to drum fills. Okay, certain drum fills are going to work better with certain grooves. Certain drum fills aren't going to sound as good with that groove. It's all about you opening up your mind and kind of navigating to say, okay, all right, I'm going to do it like this. Check this out. I'm going to do this. Check this out. That's what that's about, okay? So now I'm going to demonstrate that to you. And I've demonstrated this before in other YouTube videos, but I'm going to do it again for you. We are going to go with a random sticking out of the free ebook that I have. If you want to grab that, that's down below in the description as well. A bunch of stickings that you can use, tons of variations. We're going to go with that. And I'm going to show y'all how to do the LPC method and how to apply the stickings and how to generate creative stickings that feel good to you and that are you. All right? So let's jump over and do that right quick.
All right, y'all. So we are going to talk about the LPC method. Learn it, right? Learn whatever it is you have, a chop, a rudiment, right? Work on the placement of that chop or rudiment, and then we're going to work on the contextualization of it. So I'm going to just walk y'all through it. I have a video on this that is really, really deep and in-depth, and I'm going to use the same concepts from that video again. So if you've seen it, this will be like a recap. But if not, check this out and then also watch that other video. So we're going to use the Herita, which is a cool rudiment. So let's walk through LPC. The first thing with the Herita is to learn it. So let's learn it. I like to learn something on the snare only. Don't move it around. Don't run before you can walk, and don't walk before you can crawl. Learn it on the snare by itself. So we're going to just play the Herita slowly but surely on the snare. This is how it goes. So very simple. Sometimes you're going to run into rudiments or chops or licks that are harder to learn. This process will take a little bit longer. The learn step will be a lot longer for you, but that's okay as long as you learn it and internalize it the proper way the first time. All right. Now we got the P, the placement, right? So what does that mean? How are we going to place it around the kit? So now we get to do what you've been wanting to do. Move it around, right? Experiment with it. See how it sounds. See where it fits in. See where you can go with this thing. All right. So let's move the Herita around now. Check this out. Another thing that I left out was now we can start incorporating the kick and placement too. Start listening to how you can incorporate the kick, how you can go about it, and different things that you can do, okay? So check this out. Now, that's the placement. Just have fun with it. Speed it up a little bit. Slow it down a little bit. Okay? Now we will move to the contextualizing of it, right? So incorporating it into grooves, incorporating it into drum fills and stuff like that, drum solos. So let's incorporate it into a groove first. So let's see how we can do it. Ready? So y'all get the gist of it, man. Working on the hair toe, working it out, using it in a contextualizing environment, contextualizing it in the groove, right? Learning how to just apply it, man, instead of just going on a whim and trying it on a gig for the first time in a groove. Actually sit down with it and put it into context. The LPC method has done wonders for me, man. That is the reason why the LPC method is the reason why I'm able to play the drums how I can play them today. So it's all about setting yourself up for the musical situations that will come towards you. Learning it, really breaking it down, internalizing it, and knowing how to use it in musical context. And that's what it's all about, y'all.
All right, y'all, that is going to mark the end of this video. I appreciate you guys for sticking around and watching this video. If you like the things that I teach and you feel that we will work together well, then hit the link in the description to find out how we can work together one-on-one. I will definitely be happy to help you expedite the process of being the best drummer that you can possibly be. And trust me, we will most definitely get you there. God bless. Zyck the Freak out. I will see you guys next time. Peace.